Hey everyone, this is Ciro Kern here. I'm here today to share with you a video on a build that I have adapted from an existing build. So if you guys are not familiar, there is a build that Hera put together back in the days of Voobly that he really exclusively used with Mayans, but he used most famously in this match in a 1v1 with the Max. I believe this was, I think that he used this at the ECL LAN event, if I recall. Could be wrong on that, but that's if memory serves. I would highly recommend watching this game, and he does have a separate build in his channel, or a separate video in the channel explaining every step of the build. But this is the build in action. You can kind of see it work. This build is an adaptation to this build, and it is done by the Tatars. So I actually developed this adaptation back when the Tatars were first released at the release of DE, but Tatars kind of lacked any kind of meaningful follow-up to it. And so the build wasn't really that useful because unlike Mayans, Tatars didn't have any amazing middle or late game, big play that you could go for. So unlike, Mayans where they have plumed archers and lots of eagles, lots of great options. So now that the Tatars have been buffed today on March 31st, there's a pretty significant move where you can actually go into an all-in castle age, or you can go for more of a late game. There's actually a lot of different options you can take with Tatars. And so I wanted to share this with you guys. So I'll go ahead and get it started here. I'm just doing it against the AI because I'm definitely not a good enough player to do it live or against a real person on a video. So the build really starts, I'm going to fast forward a little, but the build starts in the exact same way that a 22 pop Man-at-Arms build starts. So one big difference that you're going to see is that I do push a deer. I'm lucky I find the deer right away over here. Actually keep my Fog of War on. Pushing this deer is not necessary, but it is extremely helpful if you're able to do it. If you're not able to push the deer, then often you have to delay your double bit axe just a minute or two. I am going forward and scouting my opponent. I could lame these sheep, but I actually just pulled them over to here just to show you. Obviously, as Tatars with their bonuses, their sheep get extra food, and so laming sheep is awesome. However, it's not necessary, and I don't do it for the purpose of this build. I'm just going to leave these guys over here. So, otherwise, pretty normal build. We go 4 to wood. We are taking that deer. We take the boar in the normal timings. We build a house with the next villager. And we're just scouting around looking for our opponent at the same time. So we can see from my map, I do have a really sick map. I wish I got maps like this for real online games. But, again, it's not super important. I am going to wall in the same way that I would for an online game. I'm not a top player. I would call myself an intermediate player. On DE, I'm rated in the 1500s, 1550 category. So certainly by no means am I anywhere near top level. And I'm sure this build has a lot of opportunities for improvement. So I totally welcome those suggestions and those improvements. So let me know in the comments or message me on Discord or use the build yourself and keep them secret. Anyway, here are these sheep I talked about just to show you that I'm not taking them. So we're getting pretty close to the end of Dark Age here. If you're not too familiar with how the standard Man-at-Arms build starts, I'd recommend Hera's channel to take a look at that. He has good demonstration videos. All right, we're going to go ahead and go to regular speed now as I am about to click up. So at this point, the Tatar extra food bonus is really showing. You can see I have quite a few sheep still remaining, and I've only kept 4 on wood for this whole time. But I'm going to immediately, as soon as I click up, pull 4 villagers off of food and send them to wood. So I'm going to have 8 on wood between 2 lumber camps. I'm going to pause. There's a few permutations of this build that I have tried, and I've tried staying on 1 lumber camp, in which case I often stay 7 on wood. I find that it slows the addition of farms later, and it's really difficult to optimize when to add more onto wood. So I don't really recommend that. Being on 1 lumber camp can be there's a lot of villager bumping, and so you're actually compromising a lot of your economy doing that. And my goal with this build was to not significantly compromise the economy. So I suppose I didn't mention that the core idea of this build is that we are going to immediately build 1 range when we hit feudal, and then we are going to immediately, after that, add a blacksmith and get fletching. So we're going to have our first Man-at-Arms forward and doing damage and hopefully keeping them open, which is going to be the biggest goal of the Man-at-Arms, prevent your opponent from walling. And then we're going to have an immediate archer follow-up. So when those archers follow up, they will have fletching, and therefore actually be extremely dangerous to villagers and to any remaining units like Man-at-Arms or something that your opponent might also still have left. So, yeah, that's the goal here. So we'll see how that plays out. you can see we still have lots of food for our villagers to take. So this actually plays out, this extra food really plays out like a wood bonus. I'm getting to have fewer villagers on wood, and as a consequence, I send one more to gold when I'm about halfway up to feudal age. So the idea of doing this is that it's going to help me afford that fletching a little faster while keeping archer production fairly constant. Hopefully totally constant. If it's not constant, it's because I'm a potato player. So you can do better than me. Okay, so we can see immediate range, and we immediately get man-at-arms and double bit axe. So there's no compromise to the economy here. We also have villager production going immediately, so no issues here. I'm not going to focus too much on the micro over here. I probably potato it a few times. This is maybe more proportionate to your skill as a player. First villager out is going to go on to gold. The fourth on gold is going to help us keep one range production constant. So that's an important aspect here. So in the meantime, I've continued to wall up, kind of like I would just in a regular game. I had this villager out doing things, so again, no compromise to the normal style of play. I am sending a second villager out. This was slightly suboptimal. I should have sent a villager out to build a house a little earlier. I had to kind of rush down this house, but we'll deal with it. So at this point, I've got 4 on gold. I've got the 1 on wood. I'm building this blacksmith, and this I'm going to begin farming. So I just have him taking a straggler before I start farming. So the farms are coming up now, and you can see the sheep haven't run out yet. So I have food income. I'm adding the farms now so that I don't have this immediate moment where I need to seed 8 farms and the food income stops. You can see man-at-arms are doing their thing. I would say that it's important not to just Titanic your man-at-arms into your opponents to TC like I'm about to do, because, again, these guys should be holding your opponent open. The goal is to keep them from walling so that as these first archers come, which should be, normally I'd send them in a group of maybe 3, but we can see the opponent's got no army. We could be here with 2, 3, 4 archers around the 13-minute mark, which is the goal. And these guys have fletching, as you can see. So we have fletching, units are coming forward, and we're immediately dangerous to villagers. We can keep streaming them, but in a real game, if your opponent, for example, has scouts out, I'd recommend moving them in groups of 2 or 3. As a great strategy for your opponent would be use scouts to cut off the reinforcements. So now that we have these villagers, these archers terrorizing villagers, we're going to continue to add economy behind. We go up to 10 on wood. Okay, so 10 on wood is important for producing out of multiple ranges and setting farms. So I'm working up towards building a second range as soon as possible. I don't have the second range yet because I've been adding these farms. The farms, I would say, I don't want to say they're optional. I would say that it's a very good idea, because otherwise you're almost like Tati rushing at that point, where you might even not be able to produce villagers for a moment. It's just not worth it. Now, of course, if you lame food, you might be able to delay these farms more and get the second range up faster. But the idea is we should be getting a whole bunch of early damage. And you can see this is the AI, but it's difficult because of the damage I was getting for your opponent to have fletching and a lot of skirms out already. So you can see I've now added a 5th onto gold. This was to kind of start working towards streaming more onto gold, because I'd like to get that second range up, and you can see that second range is going up now. If you have 2 range archers going, you need to have at least 7 on gold. 8 on gold is eventually needed to work your way up to Castle Age. You can see I'm floating some gold now, though. Again, kind of me being a little bit potato, probably not constant archer production there. But yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We're adding farms, building eco up behind it, so this isn't some kind of all-in thing. Again, I'm not microing these guys too much, but I did a little bit just to keep it a little more realistic for a player at my level, as I think most people watching are probably not professionals. So anyway, we've got the two ranges up and operating now. So if our opponent was 2 range, they might actually have more archers than us at this moment, and we wouldn't want to take a fight. We could be sneaking these guys around and just hitting villagers randomly until we build up the mass ourselves. Now, of course, the goal here is that as we move on, we haven't compromised our economy, but we've caused significant damage. So because of that, even if our opponent has the same amount of army as us, they shouldn't be up to the next stage at the same time as us. We will be up earlier. The AI tried to pick off a villager, had to show him who's boss. Anyway, the goal is that we'll be up a little bit faster, and of course getting Thumb Ring for free as Tatars, when you get that crossbow upgrade, you're going to destroy everything. So one of the biggest differences is obviously the fire rate. Fire rate, I think, increases by 18%. But when microing, that's not the biggest difference. The biggest difference is that you move from, I believe, 85% accuracy with the archers or with crossbow to 100% accuracy. So the DPS from your ball of archers is much higher. So we can see we're hitting like the 18-minute mark here. I've got 7 on gold. I've got plenty of food income. I get housed because that's the kind of potato player I am. But hopefully you're better than me. You'll remember to keep building the houses. At this point, I'm getting wheelbarrow, and I'm going to go up. So this is the moment. We have a good number of farms, 18 farms. This is all we need. So what you do next, I would say, on your way up to Castle Age and how you balance your eco at this moment depends on your plan. And you have a few different options. One option that I really like, on a very preliminary basis, is to add a stable and add either knights or step lancers and go crossbow and knights 1 TC. Or crossbow and step lancer. Step lancer is cheaper than knights, so it should be easier to continue that archer production and really be mostly archers and just a few step lancers, and the step lancers are quite good at sniping siege, especially now that they have the +1 attack after the update. By the way, you can see we are up to Castle Age now, things looking good. So that's an option. If that's an option you want to pursue, you would generally be reseeding the farms as they expire. If you plan to go into boom, then as they expire, you should be sending the villagers to wood. So going that way, you'll continue with the 2 range production. You'll build the 2 town centers and then add a university for ballistics. Another option is you could just use the wood to add a university for ballistics right away, and that's a great 1 TC play as well. When instant ballistics and thumb ring, you're going to be winning a lot of fights. The next thing we could do is add a 3rd range and transition to CA. We have this nice ball of archers, or that will soon be crossbow, which, by the way, we obviously want to pull back. We don't want to take any big fights right before we get crossbow. So we might micro around a little, but for the most part, we're going to make sure we keep our units alive. So these guys will keep some pressure up while we're in that awkward transition to CA. If you're going to transition onto CA, you need to add more to gold and then add more to wood as well. This is kind of why I don't like staying on that 1 lumber camp. My wood economy is really nice right now, and I didn't have to compromise that. I still have lots of options. The final option you could go for, if your opponent is very skirm heavy, as my opponent is right now, is to go for a forward siege workshop. But at this point, you can see we can afford everything. We already have thumb ring. I'm going to demonstrate what thumb ring archers look like in just a moment. But you just balance your economy for what your plan is. And you can see we were up at, I believe, I'll look at afterwards, I think it was 2140, which is a pretty fast up time for a man-at-arms build. Granted, I took no damage at all, so, taking some damage might be different. Here's the thumb ring archers. You can see 100% of these arrows are landing, and so we are one-shotting the hell out of everything. Even if they had armor, it doesn't matter. The damage output is just absolutely crazy, and you can see didn't lose a single unit, killed lots of skirms. Okay, so, and a forward siege workshop to follow it up. It's a play where you're looking to end the game relatively quickly if you're going to go for that siege workshop, but you can see I have the wood for the boom. I have a lot of options to do whatever I want. I had the economy behind it. I was walled. Everything looked good. Let's go ahead and look at some of the uptimes here. So 10:05 is the normal man-at-arms uptime. 21:36 for the Castle Age. Pretty quick. Again, I took no damage at all. But also I'm a suboptimal player. I'm sure a better player could even get this down a little bit if they're not taking any damage. No issues with economy whatsoever. Most of this stuff is loaded because I'm playing an AI player. So anyway, I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you'll enjoy giving it a try yourselves. I would love to hear how you guys are doing with it, and I'd love to see it played in some rated games. So please, if you give it a try, I would love to see the recorded game. If you want to send it to me on Discord, or you can comment it on the YouTube comments below. But I hope you enjoy it. Hope you get some mileage out of it, and hope you have a great time playing with it.